John Bryers, number 36, 50, and 83, from the class of 1967, was one of the pioneers of great receiving ends at LaSalle. In an age of smash-mouth football of 3 yards and a cloud of dust, John Bryers stood out like an oasis in the desert for his pass-catching abilities. In both his junior and senior years, he excelled at his end position, having the ability to use his long arms on short out patterns, providing a sideline target to avoid interceptions. He also had the willingness and ability to go over the middle and catch the ball in traffic, and had great strength and resolve to get additional yards after contact, looking like the high school version of the Chicago Bears' Mike Ditka. Briers also had the skill to break through one-on-one tackles and get loose and on his way to the end zone, scoring several long touchdowns on what started off as a short pass. Though the current era of LaSalle football is inundated with great receivers, John Bryers was one of the first wearing the blue and gold to exploit his receiving abilities at the end position. So when you think of LaSalle football, remember John Bryers, class of 1967. Jeff Ptrack, number 40 of the class of 1998, was a tall, lanky, versatile wide receiver in the high-flying offensive era of the mid-1990s. In addition to serving as a capable place kicker, the 6-foot 1-inch Ptrack was a deep threat, using his speed and height to outdistance and outreach smaller and slower defensive backs. Ptrack also could run some drag patterns across the field, catching the balls in traffic and looking for lanes to break downfield. He excelled amongst a great cast of offensive skill position players that had the abilities to score a point a minute in many contests. Ptrack would have been, hands down, the go-to receiver on lesser teams, but earned his place of honor on his great teams with his pass-catching ability. Ptrack won all Catholic honors as both a wide receiver and a place kicker, and was a first-team All-City receiver in his senior year. So when you think of LaSalle football, remember Jeff Pietrak, class of 1998. Mike Lynch, number 14 of the class of 2005, was a special quarterback on a couple of not-so-special squads in the early 2000s. A signal caller of modest size at 5 feet 11 inches and 150 pounds, Lynch stood tall and strong despite the defensive onslaught foisted upon him. He had the ability to make pinpoint short passes, and he could throw on the run. And he also could heave the home run ball with a high arc that often would nestle softly into the hands of his wide receivers. Mike Lynch could also run with the ball, sometimes on pre-designed bootlegs, but often because he was flushed out of the pocket, and sometimes his scrambling paid off in long gains downfield. Lynch attained all-Catholic status in both his junior and senior years, and was well respected by his coaches and teammates as a good quarterback and a solid team leader as captain. So when you think of LaSalle football, remember Mike Lynch, class of 2005. Jared Walls, number 4 and 24, from the class of 2016, was a 4-year varsity player for the Explorers. As a freshman, he got some touches in late games as a running back and was looked upon to become a solid ball carrier for the blue and gold for years to come. But Walls would become more valuable on the other side of the ball, playing a lot of different positions in his remaining 3 years, including cornerback, strong safety, and linebacker. Though he still got involved on the offensive side of the ball, Jared Walls became a consummate defender. Walls had a nose for the ball on defense, coming out of the pile with several fumble recoveries, and he also pilfered many opponent passes, oftentimes in the biggest of games. After the interception, Jared Walls changed into a running back in a hurry, and his long returns sometimes turned into touchdowns, breaking the heart of his opponents. Jared Walls had an interception return for a touchdown in the PCL championship game against St. Joe's Prep that tied the score, and ultimately allowed LaSalle to be in position to win the game in the last minute. For inexplicable reasons, Jared Walls never got the all-Catholic accolades that he richly deserved. He was the glue on the defensive side of the ball in his senior year, and LaSalle faithful always acknowledged his great play. So when you think of LaSalle football, remember Jared Walls, class of 2016. Gerry Woltemate, number 23 of the class of 1959, was the consummate all-purpose back. In his junior and senior years, he played in the shadows of more renowned backs like Johnny Herrera and Scott Maxwell, but Woltemate always distinguished himself when he got to touch the ball. As a back, he majored in ultimate versatility, being able to run inside as well as outside, always managing to be leaning forward to gain that extra yard when required. Gerry Woltemate also was a really good receiver, accepting swing passes out of the backfield and also surprising the defense with some long routes that usually ended up in an over-the-shoulder catch. Woltemate played for 2 Catholic League champions in his junior and senior years, and he was a major contributor to the success of each team. He attained only second-team All-Catholic honors in his senior year, but his value to the team was much more. To this day, he is revered by his teammates as a great player and a great person. So when you think of LaSalle football, remember Gerry Woltemate, class of 1959.